I used to think whiskey ruled the cigar world, until one night, a man in a smoky lounge told me I was wrong. What he said flipped decades of tradition on its head, and it all started with a single glass of rum.
Welcome to the Cigar and Whiskey Podcast, where every episode takes you deeper into the stories, traditions, and flavors that make cigars and spirits unforgettable. So pour a glass, light a stick, and settle in.
The bar at Thomas Hines smelled of cedar, molasses, and the kind of tobacco sweetness that lingers in the air long after the match goes out. The light was low, the chatter soft, and the ashtrays were already half full. I was halfway through a smoke when I met Miguel Shudel from Crowned Heads, the kind of guy who carries stories the way others carry lighters. Easy smile, easy laugh, but when he talks about cigars, everyone listens. We traded thoughts on wrappers and aging rooms, on the endless arguments about which whiskey truly earns the title of perfect pairing. Then Miguel leaned in, lowered his voice just a little, and said something that made the whole lounge go still in my mind. "Everyone talks about whiskey," he said, "but the first spirit ever paired with a cigar wasn't whiskey. It was rum." I laughed at first, thinking he was joking. But he wasn't. He started telling me about Cuba and the Dominican Republic, about the rollers who ended long days with a small glass of rum and a smoke from their own bench. Not to celebrate, to unwind. Rum wasn't a luxury, it was rhythm. Sugarcane and tobacco, he said, grew side by side. Two crops that shaped the Caribbean soul. One sweetened the world, the other perfumed it. And after hearing him talk, I realized we've all been looking west to Kentucky and Scotland when the real story of cigar pairing was born much further south. A week later, I started digging into the history myself. Old factory photos, trade journals, snippets from historians, all of it telling the same story. In Havana and Santiago, cigar workers would light up as the lector finished reading for the day. Someone poured a round of rum, and laughter filled the room. There were no tasting notes, no pairing guides, just a glass and a cigar, two crafts from the same soil. The more I read, the more it made sense. Rum and cigars matured the same way. Slowly, with time and wood doing most of the work. Oak barrels gave rum its caramel and spice, just as cedar gave cigars their calm sweetness. No wonder the two understood each other so well. I wanted to taste what they were tasting back then. So one night I set out a Flor de Caña 12 beside a Nicaraguan habano. The cigar opened with pepper and leather. The rum softened it into cocoa and warmth. It wasn't subtle. It was harmony. Rum doesn't compete with a cigar. It listens. Where whiskey can shout, rum hums. It smooths the edges, steadies the pace, and lets the leaf tell its story. My bourbon purist buddy rolled his eyes when I told him that. Halfway through his stick, he wasn't saying anything, just nodding in quiet agreement. Even science agrees. Nicotine can drop your blood sugar, which is why a strong cigar sometimes hits harder than expected. A touch of sugar steadies you, and rum brings that naturally. It's comfort built into the chemistry. So when you sip rum with a cigar, it's more than flavor. It's balance. The sweetness against the smoke, the warmth against the spice. The body knows it, even if the brain's still catching up. After the break, we'll go back to where these two crafts truly grew up together. Tobacco in the barns, sugarcane in the fields, and we'll talk about the rums that still carry that old heartbeat today.
You're listening to the Cigar and Whiskey Podcast, your companion for cigar culture, whiskey wisdom, and everything in between. Want more? Visit us anytime at cigarandwhiskeyguide.com for articles, reviews, and pairing tips.
Back from the break. If you trace cigar culture to its roots, you end up on the same stretch of land. Barrels aging in the same heat, leaves curing under the same sun. Rum and tobacco were neighbors long before anyone called them luxury. Maybe that's why rum feels so natural with cigars. It shares the same patience. Both reward those who wait. A cigar teaches you to slow down. Rum does the same thing, just in liquid form. And if you want to taste that heritage yourself, start with 3 bottles that prove the point. Diplomatico Reserva Exclusiva from Venezuela. Caramel and chocolate smooth enough to calm a Connecticut wrapper. Flor de Caña 12, born in Nicaragua, matches spice for spice with a classic habano. And Ron Zacapa 23 from Guatemala. Rich molasses and dried fruit that turn a Maduro into dessert. Try a little experiment. Pour 2 small glasses, 1 rum, 1 bourbon, next to the same cigar. Take a draw. Sip the rum first, then the bourbon. You'll notice it instantly. Whiskey tightens the flavors, makes the cigar stand taller. Rum wraps around it, making the smoke taste round and complete. Whiskey wakes the cigar up. Rum lets it breathe. And that brings me back to that night at Thomas Hines. The crowd was thinning, the ashtrays filling, the last bits of laughter floating through the haze. Miguel raised his glass of amber rum and said quietly, "Rum was never replaced, just forgotten for a while." He was right. Whiskey might headline the modern lounge, but rum still carries the heartbeat, the fields, the factories, the easy laughter that built cigar culture itself. Maybe the best pairings aren't discovered, they're remembered. Rum doesn't fight for attention. It leans in, listens, and lets the smoke tell its story. I watch the ember fade to a soft glow and the rum settle quietly in the glass. There's a moment in every good smoke when you stop puffing, breathe, and let the flavor return sweeter than before. That pause, the space between draws, is where the cigar, and maybe you, start to breathe again. And that's precisely what this week's Barrel Notes is about. The rhythm of slowing down, and what happens when you give the moment a little room.
And now it's time for Beau's Barrel Notes, reflections, lessons, and a little wisdom from the lounge.
The pause. It's the part most smokers skip, the quiet half-minute between draws that feels like waiting for something to happen. But that stillness isn't wasted. It's where the cigar and you start to breathe again. A great cigar rewards patience. One slow draw every 30 to 40 seconds keeps the ember cool and the flavors alive. Rush it, and the heat takes over, burning the taste right out of the leaf. But when you slow down, everything opens up. The smoke turns creamy, the spice softens, and the sweetness comes forward. Try it sometime. Set the cigar down, let the smoke rise on its own. Pick up your glass, take in the aroma before the sip. Listen to the room, feel the tempo settle. It's amazing how the flavors seem to widen when you give them space. That's the beauty of slowing down. The conversation changes. The drink tastes rounder. Even your thoughts seem to move differently, less like noise, more like rhythm. Because the best part of any cigar isn't just the draw, it's the pause between them. The space where the ember cools, the flavor blooms, and life, for a few minutes, moves at the proper speed.
Those were Beau's Barrel Notes, a little reflection to sip on until next time. Now let's raise a glass and close things out.
Miguel was right. Rum was never replaced, just forgotten for a while. And maybe slowing down is how we remember. Every draw, every sip, every pause brings back a little of what made it all special in the first place. Every pour beside a good smoke is a small act of gratitude for the fields that grew it, the hands that shaped it, and the patience that brought it to life. That's the rhythm of the leaf and the glass. Slow, balanced, steady. If you enjoyed this story, subscribe to Smoke Signals on Substack or follow the Cigar and Whiskey podcast wherever you listen. And next time you light up, skip the bourbon once. Pour a little rum instead, take your time, and let it reclaim its throne.
Thanks for listening to the Cigar and Whiskey podcast. Subscribe and share with a fellow aficionado, and keep the journey going at cigarandwhiskeyguide.com, where every puff and pour has a story.